one car, one song, and a $70 million content empire built by a man who wasn't even, well, known as a singer. That's the kind of surprising fact that really anchors our deep dive today. We're talking James Corden, of course, and that global phenomenon he kicked off, Carpool Karaoke. And it all started so small, didn't it? Just a simple sketch for British charity TV with him and George Michael singing in a car.
Yeah, exactly. And this isn't just a fun story about a celebrity or some late-night TV bit that went viral. This is really a masterclass. It's about an unlikely strategy, how a simple comedy sketch got turned into, well, one of the most valuable branding assets in modern entertainment. It really shows you sometimes it's just one car, one song, and critically, the right mindset behind the wheel. That's what builds something huge.
And that's exactly why this story is so interesting for you listening today. We're not just gawking at a celebrity's bank balance, are we? We're digging into the actual strategies underneath. How Corden, who started without, a huge portfolio or millions sitting in the bank, turned that simple idea into a $70 million empire. So we're going to unpack the key insights from our sources. We want to reveal the genius behind both the creative and the financial success here. Think about it. James Corden lands in Los Angeles. This is 2015. He doesn't have a pile of hit shows ready to go, no big deals lined up. What he did have was much less tangible, but wow, it turned out to be way more valuable, an idea. And on the surface, it just seemed almost laughably simple. Get in a car and sing with celebrities. That's it. But that concept, Carpool Karaoke, became one of the most lucrative formats of the last, decade or so, the 2010s, the 2020s. Our sources estimate his net worth around $70 million as of mid-2025. And a huge chunk of that is tied, directly or indirectly, right back to this format.
Right. And the really insightful thing here, the sort of financial genius bit, wasn't just making money off each video as a one-off. It's how he turned that content into a long-term digital asset. It's what creators now call digital IP, intellectual property. Think of it like this, maybe. Lots of creators, they sort of rent their content, hope it goes viral for a moment. Corden basically bought the land for Carpool Karaoke. He built long-term value. So each episode wasn't just, fun entertainment. It was its own little revenue engine. Multiple layers. Take that Adele episode. Everyone remembers that one. Mid-2025, it's got over 263 million views. Now, with typical YouTube ad rates, the CPMs, that one episode, just one, could have pulled in several $1 million in ad revenue alone.
Wow, several million.
Yeah. And then beyond just the YouTube cash, think about the show itself. These viral clips totally supercharged The Late Late Show. It became CBS's most shareable thing, which naturally brought in better sponsors, pushed up the ad value for the whole show. And then the big move in 2016, Corden's company, Fullwell 73, along with CBS, they sold the international rights to Apple. That launched a whole standalone series, Carpool Karaoke, first for Apple Music, then Apple TV Plus Room.
So the real magic wasn't just James Corden's face on the screen. Not really. It was about everything he built around that screen, wasn't it? He wasn't just focused on monetizing himself, his image. He was monetizing the format. And that's just a totally different way of thinking financially, because it meant even after he left The Late Late Show in 2023, he kept earning. The Carpool Karaoke brand lives on as this long-term asset.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger idea, Corden got that music isn't just background noise, it's like a universal emotional currency. He put it really well himself. He said something like, music makes us stop, sing, and connect with strangers. I just put a camera in that moment. So while we were all just laughing and singing along, Corden was building something maybe not obvious at the time, a content-backed, emotion-driven financial empire.
For him, each episode wasn't just a funny clip. It was a compound digital asset, like an emotional stock that grew in value with every share, every replay, all around the world. It built value over time.
And he didn't just wait for someone to give him this format. He actually designed it himself, right? Long before it was a huge thing, he tested an early version, that George Michael sketch for Comic Relief in the UK back in 2011.
That's right.
That sketch went viral, sure. But the key thing was it planted a seed. This idea, this format, it could go global. Absolutely. So fast forward to 2015. CBS offers him The Late Late Show, which, let's be honest, was a bit of a gamble, this relatively unknown British guy in the US late night scene. But he didn't just, take the hosting chair. He quite literally brought the car with him. His official debut segment with Mariah Carey, it took off. Over 36 million views pretty quickly. And that really signaled, okay, this is a new era in celebrity content. This wasn't just another talk show. It was this carefully built content structure designed from the start to be chopped up, repurposed, syndicated.
And the ultimate proof that he built an asset, that licensing deal. By 2016, his production company, Fullwell 73, and CBS licensed Carpool Karaoke to Apple Music. They launched Carpool Karaoke series, and that show ran for 5 seasons, 2017 to 2022. It expanded the format globally without Corden even hosting most of them.
Right.
That's the real test, isn't it? A system that works on its own, even when the creator isn't physically driving the car?
Exactly. And the genius of his strategy here was kind of two things working together. First, ownership. He didn't just show up to host. He made sure his company, Fullwell 73, was involved in production, in licensing. That meant back-end participation, long-term revenue rights.
Smart.
Very. Second, he built a format, not just a cult around his personality. The concept itself, singing in a car, it's simple, it's repeatable, it's emotionally universal, perfect for scaling, different hosts, different countries. It still works.
And the numbers back it up. Forbes, Deadline, they all reported Carpool Karaoke became one of Apple's most streamed original series. On YouTube, you're talking billions of views combined, the Late Late Show channel itself. Over 10.8 million subscribers by 2025. And these weren't just, feel-good numbers. They directly led to big sponsorships, global syndication deals, real money.
Yeah, and a really crucial insight from Corden's playbook here is that going viral doesn't automatically mean valuable, not unless you build it to last. By anchoring all that content to this repeatable, brandable structure, he basically generated passive cultural capital. It kept working for him. He said it himself in an interview, something like, "I never wanted to just go viral. I wanted to build something that could go on without me."
Ah, that's key.
Yeah. He built a timeless structure, not just a moment that fades.
Okay, so we've got the brilliant idea, the smart financial structure.
Yeah.
But an idea doesn't build itself, right? What was Corden actually doing behind the scenes? When the cameras weren't rolling, what made the execution so effective? What was different from other hosts?
Well, a huge piece was just his relentless drive, his pursuit. In the early days, apparently, his team was struggling to book big names. Corden didn't just wait for the phone to ring. He personally showed up at artists' homes sometimes, made calls himself, pitched the idea face-to-face. He even practiced his own karaoke playlist in his driveway, apparently, just getting into it.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Adele example is maybe the best illustration. She initially said no, but Corden gently kept at it for months. When she finally agreed, he didn't just wing it. He apparently wrote out a whole conversation arc. He rehearsed her lyrics. He even timed the driving route to match the emotional beats of the songs.
That much prep, yeah.
Yeah. And the result? That 14-minute ride became the most watched episode ever, 263 million views. And then there's Rihanna. He tried to book her for, get this, 8 years.
8 years.
8 years. That level of persistence, that's not typical. That's someone treating this like a craft, not just churning out content.
And it seems like what really sets him apart is how he treated the guests. Not like props, but like co-creators. Whether it was Bruno Mars or Michelle Obama, he really studied their music, planned little comedy bits, but also left space for them to just be themselves. It felt collaborative.
Totally. He wasn't just singing at them. He was listening, harmonizing, laughing at the right spots, letting there be moments of, actual silence or just human interaction. And that's probably why so many huge stars agreed to do it, often without their publicists needing to micromanage everything. They knew it wouldn't be a stiff interview. It felt like a safe space, just singing in a car with this guy who genuinely seemed to love their music. And that empathy apparently carried over into the edit. They didn't just cut for jokes or viral moments. They paced it emotionally. Laughs timed right, musical beats balanced, little stories emerging, like mini films. That wasn't a network note, that was his personal touch.
He actually said once, the greatest compliment I've ever had was when someone told me, I forgot the cameras were there. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Perfectly. So yeah, in a world obsessed with fast content, clickbait, Corden's approach felt almost methodical. Slow, even. But that's probably why it worked so well. He showed up personally, he rehearsed it crazy, he designed it for connection, and he played the long game. He didn't force virality, he crafted it. Rehearsed, refined, repeated until it just felt effortless.
Let's rewind the clock, though. Before all the success, before the karaoke took off, let's go back to a time when James Corden was actually kind of feeling. Around 2009, right? Just a few years before Carpool Karaoke really started. He got slammed by the UK press after his sketch show, Horning Corden, just completely bombed. Critics called him overrated, arrogant, flash in the pan. It was pretty brutal.
It was. And the interesting thing is the choice he made after that public failure, instead of just quitting or trying to be someone totally different, he sort of shifted the lens. He decided to become the connector, the guy who lets other people shine, who sings with them, not over them. That shift Subtle, but really powerful, that philosophy became the bedrock for Carpool Karaoke.
And taking the Late Late Show in 2015, that still seemed like a pretty illogical move at the time, didn't it? An unknown Brit in the U.S. late-night wars.
Totally illogical on paper. But his conviction was strong. He apparently said yes, not because he was ready, but because he had a concept. And he had this core belief that joy connects people. He really trusted that joy, genuine fun, could cut through all the noise and cynicism in media, and that belief shaped everything. Filming in a real car, not a green screen, for real reactions. Choosing to sing, because singing kind of strips away ego. Focusing on shared moments, not just monologues. Emotion over ego. Harmony over headlines.
It sounds like he saw the content not just as a performance, but almost like hospitality, like inviting someone into a shared experience, and the audience gets to be part of that moment too.
That's a great way to put it. Hospitality.
And that transformed Carpool Karaoke into this global ritual. Suddenly you had pop icons, even first ladies, being just another human singing badly with a friend. Very relatable.
And then, maybe the most defining decision of all was to walk away. April 2023, right at the peak of his U.S. fame, he leaves The Late Late Show. Not for a bigger gig, but to go back home, back to the UK with his family.
Yeah, I remember that. He explained it really powerfully, too. He said something like, "Leaving now feels like the most courageous choice. I want to raise my kids in the way I was raised."
Think about that. In a world that's just obsessed with constant growth, more, bigger, faster, Corden chose completion. He chose to let go of that massive spotlight instead of letting it potentially consume him. That decision might not have grabbed flashy headlines right then, but it really cemented his legacy. Someone who knew when to start, how to scale, and maybe the hardest part, when to stop.
Yeah.
Because real power isn't always in just building bigger and bigger. Sometimes it's in that graceful exit.
Okay, well, let's talk influence. Corden never ran for office, didn't build a tech giant, doesn't own a traditional media conglomerate like, say, a Murdoch or a Disney, and yet somehow he became one of the most influential connectors in global entertainment. How did that happen?
What was his secret there?
Well, I think it goes back to that format idea. He didn't try to own the conversation itself. He designed the space, the format that hosted the conversation. The perfect example is that Michelle Obama episode in 2016. Think about it, just months before leaving the White House, the First Lady. And she appears not on some serious news program, but in James Corden's passenger seat, dancing to Beyonce, singing Stevie Wonder, just laughing. No pretense.
That was huge.
It was huge. 83 million views, sure. But more than that, it kind of reframed power. It showed joy, music, authenticity. These things could cut across politics. His car became this weirdly effective global cultural bridge.
And that wasn't just a one-off, was it? That became the blueprint. From massive global acts like BTS to Billie Eilish, Lady Gaga, Elton John, his car somehow became the most emotionally intimate stage on the planet. No paparazzi, no rigid scripts. Exactly. And what Corden really understood, something maybe few entertainers truly grasp, is that real influence isn't just about eyeballs. How many people are watching you? It's about how deeply they trust the space you create. He wasn't trying to be a gatekeeper. He became a conduit, a host who made incredibly famous people feel safe enough to be, well, real, silly, human.
And that trust had real impact.
Oh, enormous soft power. Artists saw actual spikes in their streaming numbers after being on Carpool Karaoke. Adele's sales jumped 45% on iTunes the week after her segment aired. That's tangible. The Late Late Show YouTube channel, it became this massive cultural archive. And the format itself, Carpool Karaoke, it became a tool for Apple and CBS and international markets, sort of like cultural diplomacy in a way.
Corden himself noticed that paradox. He said something like, "But the closer I made it feel like just two people hanging out, the more the world wanted to watch."
That's it. He mastered that paradox of influence. The smaller the space, the bigger the impact if it feels real. While everyone else was building these giant media towers, shouting louder, he built these quiet, emotional tunnels, connections that went straight to the heart under all the noise. His power wasn't in stirring up controversy. It was in the consistency, the tone, the joy, the invitation. He created this platform of shared presence where you, the viewer, felt like you were almost in the car too, not just watching from afar.
Okay, let's go back to that big decision, April 2023. Stepping away from the Late Late Show, right at his peak. To many people, it looked like, wow, why leave now? Why walk away from that massive platform?
Well, looking back, it seems less like an ending and more like a strategic shift. Because Corden had spent years doing more than just hosting. He was building the infrastructure around the content, so the Carpool Karaoke brand, it kept generating revenue, kept getting attention, even after he wasn't on the show every night. He'd built a machine that didn't need him there daily.
Right. So what specific systems did he have in place that allowed that? How did that work for you listening?
He built really clear independent structures. First, licensing the format itself, that Carpool Karaoke. The series on Apple TV+, it ran from 2017 to 2022, totally separate from the talk show. It actually outlasted the talk show. Second, co-owning Fullwell 73. That production company grew into a serious global studio. They were producing hits for Netflix, Apple, BBC, even without Corden being the face on screen.
Okay.
And third, those evergreen digital assets, the YouTube episodes, they just keep going, right? Generating ad revenue, keeping the brand visible years after they first aired.
So the real lesson there is virality is great, but it fades. Ownership lasts.
Exactly.
Corden didn't try to be everywhere, chasing every trend. He picked one powerful format, perfected it, protected the IP, licensed it smartly, and created these ongoing streams of income and partnerships that lasted long after the daily grind of the show ended.
Yeah, he really seemed to live by that idea. He said something like, "I'd rather own one great idea that lives on than chase 100 that disappear tomorrow." And look at Fullwell 73 now. It's a powerhouse, involved in things like Netflix's The After Party, big projects for Disney Plus YouTube originals. It's thriving. And Corden's own brand keeps evolving too. Through strategic appearances, like finally landing that Rihanna collaboration in 2025 after trying for so long, it shows his influence didn't just vanish when he left the driver's seat.
So ultimately, he didn't just weather potential crises, he kind of designed his career to withstand them. Built systems that could outgrow him, a company that didn't rely solely on him, and a reputation built on trust and joy, not just fleeting trends or scandals. His empire really was built to outlast the road itself. That's a great way to put it. So James Corden didn't become a billionaire, didn't build a tech giant, but what he built kind of quietly, definitely playfully, and really brilliantly is maybe something more powerful in its own way. A huge content empire worth around $70 million, rooted entirely in joy. He proved you don't necessarily need a stadium or a record deal. You just need a car, a song, and the ability to be genuinely invitational.
Yeah, and this deep dive, I think it reveals a really profound truth, especially for right now, this age of noise and algorithms we're in. It shows that emotional connection, if you systemize it smartly, can actually scale further and last longer than just chasing outrage or clicks. A single joyful format, if it's structured well, owned wisely, it can out-earn decades of just chaotic, forgettable virality. What he built wasn't just content. It was like a repeatable container for human emotion, designed with empathy, licensed with strategy, delivered with a smile.
And it's that line, when the world shouted louder, he sang softer.
That feels like the core lesson, doesn't it? At a time when everyone's chasing clicks, chasing valuations, James Corden seemed to be chasing belonging, connection. And by doing that, he turned vulnerability into something viral and simplicity into something sustainable. He didn't need to break the internet. He just needed to get it to sing along. And maybe, as you're listening to the story about James Corden, you're not just thinking about him, but maybe wondering a little about yourself. What's your car? What's your song? Metaphorically speaking, of course. Maybe you don't have a camera crew or, Adele lined up for a duet. But maybe you're sitting on a simple idea, something that with enough heart, enough persistence, could become something timeless. An idea that doesn't have to scream to be heard. Maybe it just needs to invite people in. Perhaps the only thing missing isn't the budget or the big brand deal, but just the belief that it's worth giving it a try.
Yeah. So if this story sparks something for you, an idea, or even just a question, maybe think about it. Or maybe even share it with someone else, someone who might be sitting quietly waiting for permission to start, waiting to hear that maybe one car, one song really is enough. We'd love for you to reflect on this. What's the smallest thing you've ever done that ended up becoming something much, much bigger than you ever expected?